Hi everyone, welcome to this week's video in which we're going to look at teachers and meetings with our teachers.
Okay, so TAs...
You missed out teachers.
We don't need to worry about the teachers, do they? Teachers know what they're doing, of course. Teachers haven't been degraded all the way through for the last few years, and now we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for teachers and really struggling to get them to actually do their jobs. And the unions aren't really kind of kicking off because teachers' workload is so high, even though they're legally required to do so many things.
Do not get me on the union one.
Do you know what? The NAHT actually agreed with us when we said this. But you know, you can go watch that video. That's on our website if you want to go watch that.
Yeah, the union one at the moment is so good, and that's starting to brew up on Twitter at the moment.
It's just ridiculous. This is what a teacher has to do. It's every single teacher's job within there to.
It's in the teaching standards.
Not different. It is differentiate, isn't
it?
You can use I think it's called different. Let's call you use differentiate, even though it's a swear word. Differentiate between each of the students, and they're following the Equalities Act and making sure that all reasonable adjustments are done before even coming to the SENCO. That would be lovely.
Oh yeah, please.
Because that's what they have to do. You have to do that. If you're a company, you have to do reasonable adjustments. Any person in a organisation that has responsibilities for others has to follow reasonable adjustments. So teachers, you're no different to everybody else.
No.
Sorry, rant. Rant.
I think there's an interesting one on Twitter at the moment because another school, or trust I should say, has put in place for September that teachers will work a 9-day fortnight.
A 9-day? They're working 4.5 days?
No. So they'll work 9 days instead of 10.
Okay.
So
why?
they get 1 day off a fortnight.
Look, okay, that's fine. They have 1 day off, but they get 1 day's pay less.
No.
So they're going to get paid the same?
Yeah, so it's because it's to do. You have to fit your hours into the 9 days. So they're flexible working contracts.
Oh.
So under law, you can have flexible working contracts. A couple of multi-academy trusts are actually trialling this out in teaching because the argument all the way through has been you can't have flexible working in teaching because the kids have to be there 5 days a week. So therefore, the teaching staff and the support staff and everybody else need to be there 5 days a week. But there is an argument, and this will probably come into our wellbeing conversation as well. There is an argument for flexible working for teachers to stop the burnout, to stop all of those things going on. And I know that within the trust that I work for central office. I'm not actually classed as a teacher, but I can opt for flexible working. So long as I can fit my work into the 9 days, I can have the 10th day off. Now, how do you do that with teaching? That's complicated. So they've had to shuffle timetables and work things out. But the teachers are still getting their PPA time. So somebody said, oh, does that mean we're just rolling PPA time in and they're actually having a day off and they've got to work from home? No, the 10th day is actually a day off. It's an additional day off.
Okay.
And it actually sounds really good. I'd love to see how it works and pans out.
I know they were trialling a 4-day week with the NHS and nurses and stuff like that because it's exactly the same thing because of burnouts and stuff like that. And they did say that people are more productive doing a 4-day week than they are doing a 5-day week. Now, if you take me, for example, I do a 3-day week But
you did do 4.
Things. I did do 4, but having a 3-day week has not made me more productive in work, but it's made me more productive on this side of things when I'm doing 4 days for this piece.
I don't think you can be more productive in your work because your work's quite set.
Yeah,
it's get in the lorry, drive it to a destination, unload it, drive back again.
No, it's there. It's job done. It's more of a process rather than a job, isn't it?
You don't have anything to do outside of it. So with a teacher, though, where you think, okay, I've got to go and deliver lessons, that is quite process driven.
Yep.
But the planning of those lessons, you might only have 15 minutes or 5 minutes even to plan a lesson. Whereas actually, if we can
lengthen the days out for them to go, okay, you've got to do some of it at home, which they do at home anyway.
Teachers are the profession that works the most unpaid hours of any profession, and apparently we're currently working around the 50 to 60 hour mark each week. Which, we talk about doctors and them doing 100-hour weeks and all the rest of it, but they do actually get paid for it, whereas teachers we don't. So we're doing the most hours. And yes, everybody will go, well, you don't work during the summer holidays.
No, they do.
But even if you actually spread those hours out, but even if you spread those hours out, 39 weeks at 60 hours a week, that's only, what are we over? What's a normal working week? 35 hours?
38 hours.
38 hours. So you're still working 12 to 22 hours additional per week over 13 weeks. We only have 13 weeks holiday, and we're doing it over 39 weeks. So we're definitely working more than full time. Anyway, that's another story. That wasn't where we're going with this. Teachers, having a meeting with teachers.
That's it.
So teachers, you are either likely to be delivering a CPD session for them or updating them on student information. Make your CPD available to them. So handout for them with your key points on it. Don't just give them your PowerPoint presentation because your voice isn't there. They're not going to take it away from it. Put down the bullet points. What are the 5 key bullet points you want them to take away from that actual session? And whenever you deliver a CPD, make sure it is something that they can act on the following day. So the worst thing about doing a CPD session is you go in there and you're sitting there thinking, great, wonderful, it's 5 o'clock, it's a Thursday night, we had parents' evening last night, I'm absolutely shattered, I've got another 6 lessons to plan for tomorrow, etc. You really need them to be enthused with something that they can take away immediately, that they haven't got to plan for, but that they can use the following day.
Yeah.
And if they can do that, they're more likely to continue doing it.
And go back to the competency check again. Put that into the end of it. So put your questions. So when you're doing your bullet points and your pieces for your thing, at the bottom of it, just put, okay, so we talked about this. What was the outcome or whatever else it was, and what are you going to do about it? Give them something that they can look at and then they can feed into. And then, this is what I said I was going to do about this. I will do this and because it will have this impact or whatever else it will do. So that they've got something that they instantly know what they're doing with, just as Abigail just said there.
I've just been recording some videos on reflective practice, actually, and reminding our teachers that they should be reflective practitioners. So what have I done? What made a difference? What didn't make a difference? And what am I going to do next? Could actually form a CPD session for them. So what have I done with that student who has autism, who doesn't like coming in my classroom? What have I tried? What have I not tried? What am I going to try next? Is a really good use of time, actually. So, do something like that.
Yeah.
So that's for something like a CPD. Generally speaking, though, a lot of the meetings that we have with teachers are those ad hoc ones where they come and knock on the door. And unfortunately, that's the one. There is no agenda for that because you don't know what they're going to come through the door with. They might be coming through to tell you that they've had a massive breakthrough with a student and it's good news. They might be coming through to say to you, hey, I've got 6 free periods next week. Can I be a TA for the week? They might be coming in to say, I hate this child and I really don't want to teach them ever again. Get them out of my lesson. They're on the SEM register. They're your problem, not mine.
Your problem, not mine.
Your problem, not mine. Shove them down the corridor. So you really don't know what it is they're coming for. So I have seen some schools using referral forms. So even for that quick conversation, they will not have them. They're like, no, sorry, go away. In the training I did earlier this week, somebody said she used to have a really nice, comfortable settee in her office. So blankets over it, nice comfy cushions, all the rest of it. She's taken it out and stuck 2 hard wooden chairs in there. It's stopped the teachers coming in.
I was going to say,
it's quite extreme, but it was like,
but surely you want to be nurturing the teachers to do the right thing. So by making a communal space within the SEN department that they can come along and they can have the chats with.
But you need to do your work, and if it's your office, you do not want your office to be a comfortable space for anybody else. It has to be a comfortable space for you, but it should not be a comfortable space for anybody else. For anybody else, it needs to be a formal meeting space.
It does need to be okay. So there needs to be 2 parts of every SENCO's office. So you need to have the formal meeting space if it's big enough, and it's not just a cupboard in the corner.
Yeah.
You need to have the formal space. I still think you need to have that communal chat area where you can open the door and go, okay, if you want to come in, you can come in and you can come and talk to me at this point here.
You see, I would rather have the cupboard in the corner that only fits my desk, chair and a computer in there, and then have a separate meeting room. So that to have a meeting, we are physically moving away from our work, going to a meeting for a fixed period of time and coming out of a meeting where we have established what our outcomes are and we're leaving it.
Yes, but you'd also have a little timer in the top corner that goes, your time is up. Sorry, the meeting has ended. That's all you can talk about. Sorry, I don't have time for anything else.
Hey, when I first started teaching, and I'm going back a long way now, the French teacher, who was supposed to be my mentor when I first started teaching, she, at the first parents' evening, she had her year group. I didn't have mine, but I had to attend to find out how to do parents' evenings. It's a pretty good school, actually. It did teach you how to do things. She had a bell on her desk and a timer at the side of it. She had a sand timer, and parents' evenings were supposed to be 5 minutes. She had a 4-minute egg timer on her table. She would say hello to them. She'd say, we have 4 minutes to discuss this, turn the timer over, and when the timer ran out, she would ring the bell and go, next person, even
Next,
if she was in the
please.
middle of the sentence.
That is brilliant.
Oh, it actually scared me. I could never do that to somebody.
Oh, I think I could do that to somebody. I could probably do that to quite a few people, to be honest.
But parents just never batted an eye because she'd always done it.
Yeah.
They just were like, yeah,
It's a routine.
okay, that's her way of doing it, her routine.
It's a routine that she's got in. So there you go. Within your room, and when you've got your meeting room, make it yours, make the routine yours, and do not let anybody else interrupt your routine.
So teachers coming to us, my response to anybody who ever came to me to try to talk to me, I do not take in information through these things here. It just does not go in. It kind of, I would say it goes in one ear and out the other. Occasionally it spins past a few brain cells and I might have caught a tail of it. But I don't take it in. So my response to anybody, they can stand there and talk to me for 2 minutes or 20 minutes, would be, could you just drop that all on an email for me? Or could you send me a school robin? Because I need them to bullet point what it is they've just said so that I've got that record. And then A, I haven't misinterpreted it. B, I'm not going to forget about it. And C, they also feel like they have been listened to because they've now got it out on a piece of paper and I can respond to that email. So I've got my trail starting with everything. So they can now not go to somebody and go, well, I went and told Abigail about this 3 weeks ago. Well, yeah, you probably did, but did you actually do what I asked you to do, which was send it me on an email?
Yeah.
If you haven't done that bit, I'm not going to follow up on it. And that was my routine, I suppose. I was really clear about that. If you want this, you need to follow it up with an email. I will then pick it up from there and do something with
Well,
it.
it just gives you that evidence trail to be able to follow back on to if anything goes wrong as well.
Anything goes wrong, if a member of staff tries to throw you under the bus, whatever it is. But also, it starts off your APDR process, because if you've then got 3 members of staff over, let's say, 6 months, who've come to you with the same child, and each time you've looked at it and gone, not really, it's not really anything, it's just a one-off. Oh, okay, it's happened a second time. Again, it's not anything severe. Oh, it's happened a third time. It's kind of starting that process and pattern for you. So trails, it's always trails for me everywhere.
Yeah. No, I agree completely. You know, that's the best. One of the best things to do is to evidence everything that's kind of going on within the school, so that you could link things together. Because there's always going to be that one child that's really, really quiet, but people are picking stuff up on it, and you know, it just gets missed, laid over the carpet, whatever else it is, and then suddenly something massive happens because there's a trigger point.
I think we're really good at it for a child protection purpose. So if you know that not if you know, let's say we notice a child comes in on a Thursday morning and they're really grubby on a Thursday morning and they're grumpy and they're like not really engaging with their work, and you start to notice a pattern. We tend to record it for safeguarding purposes, but we don't tend to record SEN issues. And then what you discover is that on Wednesday night they go and stay with somebody else rather than going home, and that they're up all night and they don't get fed and they don't have a wash and there's no clean clothes at that house, and they're playing the PlayStation until 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, that kind of explains why that's happening on the Thursday. Yeah. But with our SEN issues, we don't tend to notice, we don't pick the patterns up of, Daisy always struggles when it's the first 2 weeks of a topic. Why? Because she's got too much cognitive load, there's too much new information coming at her, she needs it breaking down, chunking or whatever. We're not picking up on that, we're not recording it in the same way, because we don't see academic issues in the same way as we see pastoral issues.
Yeah, no, that's right. Okay, so we have done teachers, TAs, heads, governors, LAs, Ofsted. See, and that leads nicely into what about the transition meetings? So transitions meetings with the previous school, which you've just talked about, can you plan for those properly?
Yeah, and it depends who's doing them, I think. So I've seen a lot of pastoral leads now take the lead on transition meetings, because they're going to get the information about every single Year 6 child or every single Year 2 child who's coming up to your school. And there's a benefit to that in the fact that you're not having to do it, or nobody from your team is having to do it, but the disadvantage of it is they're not very SEN focused. So we used to have a form that we would fill in. So Tracy was our lead that used to go out to the schools, and I used to send Tracy out with my SEN form. So one of the questions that she had when she was doing her general handover meeting, if you like, was, is the child on the SEN register, or is there anything we need to be aware of? So those two bits were together. I was also the DSL, so she had a one in there about safeguarding at the same time. And if they answered yes to it, she would pull out the additional form. And she would ask the teacher to fill in this additional form for us. Once they were sent back to us, what we would do is, once the children had families had confirmed their places, so we're pretty sure they're the ones coming to us and they're not going to go to appeals, we would send out a letter to all of those parents inviting them to additional transition days if they were on the SEN register or had been identified as needing additional transition, etc. And when they came to that, we had a parent evening that followed on from it. So at that parent evening, I would give the parents a form that says, your child has been identified as needing additional transition, that's why they're invited to the event today. This is what the school said they may need support with. Do you agree with this? Is there anything you would like to add? Does your child have any special educational needs? Do you agree with your child being on the SEN register? Did you attend reviews? Because sometimes primary schools will tell you they're on the SEN register and you discover they're not. Or sometimes they'll tell you they're not on the SEN register and you discover that they are, but they just wanted them to have a little bit of extra transition. So kind of gathering that information. So we used to get the parents to fill that in at the same time. That was also... So we used to send that one out, but then we had a whole school transition, which is moving on up day, which everybody does. At that meeting, we had parents' evening in the evening, and every parent was given a letter, and it's the one that gathers information about medical conditions and English as an additional language. So I know a lot of schools are really struggling to get that EAL information, which is really odd to me because I've always given that form out. So at the top of the form, it was, does your child have any of these? And they're all to do with medical conditions. And that includes things like constipation. So do they need to go to the toilet, or do they have IBS and need a toilet pass, that kind of thing. So we're preempting those things before we get to secondary. But it also had the section in there about what is the first language your child was exposed to. Do you consider your child to be EAL? What languages are spoken in the home? So we were gathering all of that information before we even had them join us in September.
Okay.
I know that's not a SENCO's job, but it was part of my SENCO form, probably because I had all of those hats, but also because it just made a logical place to kind of store that information. You could just gather it all in one.
Is that form on our website now? I can't remember. I think it is. We'll hash one up and we'll put it onto the website so that you've kind of got that as well.
Give you some ideas of what those questions were. I love sharing resources with people, but sometimes I think it has to have your own school's take on it. So sometimes the language that I would use is not necessarily the language that somebody else would use. So giving you the idea of what the questions should be, and then you write them yourselves and put them in your own fancy format, I think is far better.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Gosh, Gavin went off on a bit of a rant there, didn't he, about teacher workload and your workload, to be fair. So first one, make sure that your office isn't that comfy that everybody's going to settle down in there and stay for the weekend. When you're creating your CPD for staff, really think about those key bullet points. What is it you want to get across to people? So I don't hand out my PowerPoints, my presentations. I only give out bullet points. What is it that were the key things I want people to take away from it? Because they need your voice to go with a PowerPoint or a presentation. The bullet points are go and do. And give them something when you deliver a CPD that they can act on straight away. Try to avoid those quick drop-in conversations, because if you're anything like me, your brain is whizzing at 300 miles an hour and somebody will say something to you and you go, yeah, I'll deal with that later. You go back to the next thing and you've forgotten what it is that they've actually said, or you've only caught half of what they've actually said. Try to avoid those. Try to encourage people to send things to you so that you've got an email trail and that you can go back and you can check on it. And you could use your things like Motion, or you can use your Outlook calendar to support you with that. Think about your times for meeting. So your time for meeting with teachers. I used to have a drop-in session, so they could come and drop in on a Thursday. I think it was Thursday evening. It was Wednesday evening, actually. On a Wednesday evening every week, and they could drop in and they could come and ask questions. So that was just an open door. Come and ask your questions then. And everybody knew I'd be available for that. And that worked really well to stop people popping in at any point. So it was their fixed kind of time. It was their allocated time. Try and create that meeting routine with them as well, so they know what it is you're expecting from those meetings. And if you have got those slightly more tricky members of staff, think about your evidence trail as well. So we've talked about evidence trails before, but if you've got a member of staff who comes to you and just says, oh, I'm struggling with Fred, and you give them 6 bullet points, 6 things to go and try with Fred, and you see them in 2 weeks' time, they say, no, I'm still struggling with Fred, and you ask them, well, which of those bullet points have you tried? Very often they'll say, you didn't give me any advice, or you didn't tell me to do that, or you didn't try that. So keep your evidence trail. Try and keep something in there. It can be a bit of a pain to go on the computer and pop it on an email, but at least if it's there, it's that evidence that you've done your part of the job. The fact they're not meeting the teacher standards is an entirely different story, and it's for somebody with a higher pay grade to deal with than you. When it comes to transitions, try to formalise that data collection. So we're wanting the EAL data, we're wanting our SEND data, we're wanting our general student data. We want to be able to gather that from everybody. So we are generally ourselves not always going out to those schools. I used to rely on my pastoral lead to go and do it. So making sure that they know what questions to ask. And then if you need to, you can go and follow that up. So hopefully that video on working with your teachers for their meetings was incredibly useful to you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.